Ashoka University professor Ali Khan Mahmudabad has been granted interim bail in connection with an FIR over allegedly objectionable online posts. The court has issued a notice in the case and refused to stay the ongoing inquiry. However, acknowledging the complexity and interpretation of the language used in the posts, the court has taken a significant step. The court has directed the Director General of Police, Haryana, to constitute a special investigation team of 3 IPS officers, none from Haryana or Delhi, to ensure impartiality. The SIT will be headed by an Inspector General of Police and will also include a woman officer. Professor Ali Khan Mahmudabad's passport will also be surrendered before the Chief Judicial Magistrate as directed by the Supreme Court. That's the latest news that's breaking on the case of the Ashoka University professor and his remarks on Operation Sindoor. The professor in question, Ali Khan Mahmudabad, has been granted interim bail in connection with the FIR that was lodged against him over the allegedly objectionable online posts. The court issuing a notice in the case and refusing to stay the ongoing inquiry. However, Ali Khan Mahmudabad has been granted interim bail in the case. The Haryana DGP is set to form a special investigating team of 3 officers, which will also include a woman officer as well. None of them will be from Haryana or Delhi. We have Brijesh Pandey now joining us from the newsroom with the latest. Brijesh, a significant step taken by the court in the larger scheme of things.
Well, absolutely. I think, Mr. he has gotten his interim bail. But one thing is very surprising is that, that the observations which were made by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court also has asked or restrained him from making any kind of statement whatsoever on this particular case and also on this particular issue, which is Operation Sindoor, as well as, situations related to that. So that came as a bit of surprising because, if you go through the entire read of what he has posted online, there was nothing defamatory or nothing written which would, which would sow the seeds of enmity between two community, or which was taking a very disparaging hit at the government or so. But, it was an FIR which was registered on the basis of a complaint which was lodged by Haryana NCW chairperson, and he was arrested, given 2 days of police custody, and then was sent to 14-day judicial custody. So today the Supreme Court has granted interim bail to him. The Supreme Court has ordered Haryana government, Haryana DGP, to form 3-member SIT committee, and they have to probe the issue and have to submit. He has also been asked by the Supreme Court to make sure that he surrenders his passport to the police, to make sure that there is a proper investigation which is carried out. Krishna?
Right. All said and done, he's not off the hook. What the court has essentially said is that he's getting an interim bail because he has the right to get the interim bail, apply for one and get one. But the investigations continue, and this special investigation team will be the one which is finally deciding, whether he will be convicted under the FIR that was lodged against him or not.
Well, absolutely. I think he has got the relief to the extent that, he will not have to spend another night in police custody or in jail. But yes, he has to furnish all the bail bonds, and also the fact that, now he has to face investigation by this 3-member SIT team. The Supreme Court also went on to say that, about the private universities making these kind of statements online. They also said that, that certain portion of what he has written has dual meaning, and it could have led to any kind of potential trouble. And I think that is the reason why the Supreme Court has not completely taken him off hook. But it'll be very interesting to see how this progresses, because the statement which was made by Haryana NCW chairperson, on basis on which he was arrested and a FIR was lodged against him, I think failed to come out in public and failed to justify why an FIR was registered against him in the first place.
Right, and also it's interesting, isn't it? This 3-member SIT team that is being formed, nobody will be from Haryana or Delhi. That seems to be a very clear instruction that has gone in.
Well, yes, because the court must have felt that if their officers are from Haryana or from Delhi, the chances are that they might be influenced, because usually what happens is there's also a conflict of interest, and they, to ensure that there's no conflict of interest and the SIT carries out its investigation the way it is supposed to be, then it would be great if you have officers from outside Delhi and Haryana so as to make sure that there is no allegation whatsoever of any kind of perjury or preconceived notion against Professor Khan.
Brijesh Pandit joining us with the latest. Brijesh, also, there is a long way to go before this case finds a closure, isn't it? It's one of the hot topics of discussion across social media platforms, and I'm sure everybody you're speaking to are also asking the same questions exactly as to what. And all of this seems to be hinged upon the fact that it is an interpretation that seems to have been problematic.
Krishna, I have gone through the entire statement which has been put by Professor Khan on air and on line, and there is nothing which is objectionable. If you want to interpret certain things certain way, then you can make sure that nobody gets to write anything which is even remotely inimical to your stated ideology. What is free speech? If I cannot articulate my position or what I think of a particular position on any given situation. He did not did call for inciting violence. He did not make a disparaging remark against the government. He did not say anything which could be construed as highly objectionable. I think it is if you ask me, I would say that this clearly speaks about the far outreach of, as far as the Haryana police is concerned. The individual who has lost the FIR herself was not able to exactly pinpoint as to which statement of Professor Khan led to this outrage, or she felt outraged enough to lodge an FIR against him. So I think if you are an advocate of free speech, then and even if you are not an advocate of free speech, I would say it will be very hard pressed to find what exactly is objectionable in the social media post which was written by him.
We're talking about advocate of free speech. We in fact have an advocate, a senior advocate of the Supreme Court now joining us on the phone, and we have Swapnil Kothari now joining us on the phone. And Swapnil Kothari, first of all, talk to us. I'm sure you are an advocate of free speech. Tell us from that perspective, Professor Mahmudabad's statements, how much of it is free speech, how much of it is objectionable?
The thing is that it all depends on the timing at the end of the day. If you choose to make any posts which are subject to dual interpretation, assuming that you have the free speech which you have, which is a fundamental right. Now, if at a given point in time, if this statement were to have been made possibly a year later or 6 months later, I'm not saying that do not make a statement, but be very careful when you word something. So when you word something, if it's subject to a dual interpretation, when tensions are high, when the country is going through a particular state, and if you say that these are mere optics and anything of that sort, that tends to possibly, I would not say defame someone, but I would say demoralize or, give an interpretation which is capable of being construed as that somebody who's not in favor of Operation Sindoor. So be that as it may, you have a right to free speech, but at the same time, it all depends upon the timing. If, say, for example, if there are some sort of, for example, if there is a literature festival and, we are discussing the entire theme is that the literature festival should have no nudity at all in that or anything of that nature. And you talk about that, and that's the theme of the entire literature festival. And if you make a comment which is totally antipodal to that theme, otherwise it's fine. But on that day, in that particular Lit Fest, you don't have to make that comment. You are possibly, people are going to say that, sorry, this is not the theme today, you have to leave. And yes, you can then complain that where is my free speech gone and all of those things. But then if that was a theme, so at that time, if the mood of the state, of the nation is such that you should not make any remarks which are capable of, and especially when you are a professor, and especially when you're a professor of a very reputed university. So, the law always looks at it a little bit more jaundicedly in that sense. I'm not saying that he will not get bail or he will not be perhaps even absolved of, what he has said.
Right.
Because,
Swapnil, in fact, he has been granted interim bail. No, the fact of the matter is that he's been granted interim bail.
Exactly. And interim bail, by the way, interim bail or bail by itself only gives you that temporary freedom. It does not absolve you or it does not even incriminate you of the crime. So ultimately, when the trial takes place, that is the time we will come to know as to what reasoning does the court have behind what judgment it passes through. To the best of my knowledge, from my experience of 3 decades, I will see that I don't think he should get into any problems. It will be interpreted in, say for the heat of the moment, etc. And possibly he will be let off. I don't see a problem with that. But all I have to say is that to say that an FIR should not have been lodged is, yes, On any other day, possibly not. But when the country was passing through this kind of a crisis, when, 26 innocent lives have been lost, when you look at contextually, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to bring in context, Krishna. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that what he said is wrong or right.
Point taken,
but in the given context, there is a possibility. Thank you.
Point taken. Stay with us. In fact, my colleague Brijesh Pandey has a question for you. Brijesh, please go ahead.
No, I'm not. I don't have a question for Mr. Kothari, but I would want to join in this thing. Mr. Kothari is a senior advocate of Supreme Court, and his knowledge of law is definitely several times more than me. I have a much more rudimentary understanding of law. But the fact of the matter is, then does this not sound the death knell as far as free speech is concerned? Then this means that any political party can get me hauled over coals because I make a statement at that particular time which the political party or the government of the day can claim that it is against the interest of the country. I mean, the person who got an FIR lodged was not able to pinpoint one single sentence which actually flew her into an outrage. She has no clue about what was written. And if you have no clue about what was written and you get outraged by some flimsy, consideration, then then it's very clear that any government of the day, I'm not saying that this government of the day, then any government of the day can say that, this is happening and I don't want you to make a statement which is inimical to my idea of how a thing should be. And if you do, you can be hauled over coals, you can be put behind bars. So you can get absolved, but then the process is the punishment, as Mr. Kothari would know much, much more than I do.
Well, Brijesh, if I can add a sentence to that, what you're saying and what the comment that you've made is absolutely correct. We are a very politicized country. Everything centers around or hinges on what statement you make, and we tend to politicize it. Now, this could, for all you know, may be an engineered FIR at the instance of a political party which seems to have felt bad about it. Now, what I'm trying to say is, or it could be perhaps an absolutely genuine FIR. Now, who decides whether it was genuine, insinuated? Bottom line is, at the end of the day, the court is going to look at the content of the post, the context in which it was made, why it was made, and what was the reason behind, and not rather than who made it. So, the religion of the person is absolutely irrelevant when it comes to a court of law. So what I'm trying to say is that on any other day, I repeat myself, this would have absolutely flied across and nobody would have batted an eyelid. So all I'm trying to say is that when you make a post, when it's a written word, say, for example, if I write, say Brijesh tells me on a WhatsApp message, Mr. Kothari, I'm in Mumbai, can I meet you? I say no. Brijesh may feel insulted, although my answer is no, but I should have said no, Brijesh, lovely to have you here in Mumbai, but unfortunately I cannot make it because I'm hard pressed for time. That's a better answer. So what I'm trying to say is that you could have hedged it with one or two things that I'm fully in, with Operation Sindhu, but I feel that this is what it is. So that way, if you interpret it, or that is what it is, and, let me tell you something, even if you hedge it with many things, if somebody wants to insinuate something against you and wants to deliberately put an FIR against you, a person can do it any which ways, regardless of what you say and howsoever nationalistic you may be. So this is all a political coloration at the end of the day, which only the court can decide in its wisdom when the matter goes to trial. And the very fact that he's got an interim bail clearly shows that the court has said that, okay, fair enough, I think this should be, not a bigger issue as it's made out to be. So I think we should all, hope for free speech, and I think there is enough free speech in the country. The very fact that you and I are able to discuss on either side of the table this kind of a thing, even if it's a situation which is not yet fully tied down, is clearly shows that we are a free country. Much, much more than, let me tell you, than many other countries. I think, we are a huge democracy, and with 140 crore people, I think we have a very, very robust freedom of speech. Yes, there are despondencies, yes, there are aberrations, but those are very few and far between.
Yes, there are despondencies and aberrations. They are fewer and far between. We remain, a free speech nation, Brijesh. But the question here is that, in a free speech nation like this, which is also, not to forget, a highly litigious nation, is the reason why when somebody says something, you have an immediate FIR filed and immediately the person is taken into custody.
Well, I think, by and large, I completely agree with what Mr. Kothari was saying. The problem is that when anybody can file FIR against anybody, but the point is that, anybody can be arrested like this just because basis on somebody felt like filing an FIR without any kind of pre-investigation being done into the case, without any kind of application to of mind by the concerned officers, you being arrested, then you get a 2-day police custody, then you are sent to a 14-day judicial custody, you get it right now, so by the time it reaches court, you already spent 3-4 days in police station. For what? For writing a post which the person who got FIR registered is not able to point out exactly which sentence got her goat and and which sentence made her so angry that she felt compelled to lodge an FIR. So, I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, for a country like us, which gets governed by, ruled by, and I completely agree with what Chief Justice said, that this is a country in which Constitution is supreme. So I'm saying, you know, when you have such lofty ideals and things like that, and a person, a professor, nonetheless, gets arrested for this thing, I think there should be some sort of mechanism in there where, you know, these kind of FIRs shouldn't immediately get translated into arrest like that. I mean, you know, there could be interpretation one way or another. We can all agree to disagree for all it matters. But the fact of the matter is that a professor has to spend 4 days based on what? The person who got FIR done doesn't even know where exactly, you know, which portion, which sentence, which word caused her so much harm, and she will go get away scot-free, got to, you know, live in her AC bedroom. And the fact is that the professor has to spend 4 days behind bars.
Absolutely, Brijesh. Let's take that to Swapnil Kothari. Swapnil Kothari, you know, one is the fact that, you know, we are a free speech nation, you know, a robust, you know, when it comes to our ability to articulate our free speech, it continues apart from minor aberrations and misnomers. But Swapnil, how is it possible that, you know, somebody like Mahmudabad gets arrested on the basis of that one FIR, you know, and also the fact that, you know, he continues to be in custody, I mean, until, and you know how long these things take in court. So, you know, and I thought our justice system was all about innocent until proven guilty.
That is true, but then an FIR, by very definition, under the BNSS, gives you the right, or the police the right, to investigate the case and then make an arrest if deemed necessary. So if the police thought so, and the police could have been doing it at the behest of a political party, I don't know. I'm not in a position to comment on that. It could all be an over-enthusiastic structure in that sense. But, you know, be that as it may, I completely agree in that sense that arrests should be made very carefully, and the Supreme Court has passed many, many judgments in that regard. And, you know, nevertheless, the police seems to be over-enthusiastic when it comes to certain cases. I think the police should have been told by the court, and must have been told by the court, if not, you know, whilst granting bail, that I think you should be a little bit more circumspect when you make an arrest, because what you are doing is you are infringing upon a personal liberty of the person. So this is something which I think, you know, the courts have said time and again, but, you know, we cannot sensitize all the police to this thing. And, you know, these things, as I said, these aberrations are not minor. Because when it comes to infringement of personal liberty, but be that as it may, we have to live with it, and we have to try to rectify and try to achieve and aspire to the lofty ideals that have been laid down in the Constitution.
Okay, Swapnil Kothari, the other question I want to ask at this stage is also that, you know, this is again based on interpretation, one person's view, how they read it and what it meant for them. How much of this is provable in a court of law?
Very difficult for the person to prove who made an arrest, because if she cannot pinpoint a single, you know, clause or a statement or anything of that sort, or a word which tends to have affected her, or forget affecting her, which, you know, affects the sovereignty and unity and in the integrity of the country, and is considered as some sort of an anti-nationalistic as per the prevalent laws, then I think it's going to be very difficult for her to prove that. If she can't even point it now, what's she going to point it at then at the later stage? So it all depends upon the prosecution at that time, and I think, you know, given a certain period of time, I think this, what Mr. Mahmudabad needs to do is go in for quashing of this FIR at a later stage. And I'm sure, I think with all the, his presentation at that time with the, you know, lawyers that he's got, I think this should not be a problem. I think it should be quashed. It would not be even going to trial. It should not go to trial, in my opinion. Okay. But, you know, that's what he needs to look for. I don't think he needs to go to trial at all. He shouldn't be going to, because if he's clear in his mind that his statement was not anti-nationalist, he may have written it in the way which he should not have written, perhaps. And if he says that I could have worded it differently, and I think the court understands that, okay, I think this person did not have any such malified intention. I think we need to quash an FIR because nothing survives in the complaint. Nothing has happened. Nobody has fought with anybody. No, there is no riot. There is no, you know, threat to the sovereignty of the country. The students of his are not in any way, you know, hampered with anything, or they have decided that, oh, we'll not attend this man's classes and all that. Nothing of that sort has happened. So I think we should not stretch it beyond or make a mountain out of a molehill if he is able to present that it's not a mountain but a molehill. So I think, gentlemen, with that, I have to leave now.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much.